Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Chapter number 6, Al-An'am, the cattle. The aim of this chapter is to call on people to believe in the oneness of God through highlighting God's infinitive power and magnificence. So there is a call in this chapter for monotheism in one's thought and act too, at-Tawheed. If you notice while reciting the chapter, there is a certain sequence. In the first verses, there is a consecutive stream of verses about God's power. Afterwards, other verses condemn those who doubt about God's existence. So, while reciting the chapter, the sequence of the verses are switching from stating God's power and an argument and confrontation with disbelievers, in order to call on people to return to His path. Then, in this chapter, there is a narration, Naqla, the story of Ibrahim calling his people to Islam. Placing this story hence suits the theme of the chapter. So, why this story is placed in this chapter? That is to say, in Prophet Ibrahim's story, he talked about God's power. Then he had a big argument and he confronted the disbelievers. So it's the same sequence in this chapter, is that we have a stream of verses talking about God's power, then a stream of verses where God talks and argue and confront the disbelievers. Remarkably, subject pronoun he, huwa, is found here in this chapter a lot more than any other chapter. As the chapter is about monotheism, so by repeatedly saying he in this chapter, it tackles the main aim of this chapter is about monotheism in one's thought and act too. Mind you, why is this chapter called the cattle, Al-An'am, and how is it linked to God's power and monotheism? Before, Arab in Quraysh tribe, the tribe of Prophet Muhammad, they had cattle and animals, and which provide them with milk, transportation, meat, and it was a source of fortune and great importance. Though people knew they should worship God, yet they set certain rules. They said that this cattle has nothing to do with God. They decided what was lawful, what was not lawful regarding them, and they did what they wanted to do with their cattle. Therefore, God mentioned that true monotheism should be evidence in all life aspects. So, to stress on the importance of believing that God is one, plus it should be evidence in your life and all aspects of your life, you should practice it too. This chapter is easily explained, and the next chapter is Surah Al-Araf.